Welcome back to Average Joe Watch Reviews, where we do more than just reviews. In this video, we're going to answer the questions of how much does it cost to service your Breitling Navitimer? How long does it take? We're also going to talk about compulsory versus optional service. Compulsory meaning you must agree to replace or fix, otherwise Breitling can indeed reject your service. So we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about, can you indeed keep the replaced parts, such as if you replaced a dial or a crystal or a bezel. And also, we're going to talk about what's involved in the complete service. I'm going to go line by line, and I'm going to talk about exactly what it is that Breitling does in their full service. So you definitely want to stay tuned, because we're going to talk about all those questions in this video. All right, so for the first question, how much does it cost? Well, I'm going to give you guys the estimate that I have here, and I'm going to show you. For a complete service for my Navitimer, reference A23322. All right, and this is from 2007. So this particular Navitimer actually has the Breitling 23 movement, which is the AvgJoe 7753. So therefore, it's going to actually be a lot more affordable to service this movement, because it's essentially a AvgJoe 7750, but rotated. And AvgJoe movements can be serviced pretty much by anyone. So therefore, Breitling charges $731.40 for servicing this chronograph movement. However, if you have the B01 Breitling in-house movement, I promise you it's going to cost you more. So if you own the AvgJoe, you're going to get off a little bit better in pricing. So I'm going to skip down to what is involved in a service. And then we're going to talk about what it is that I chose that rose the price to almost $2,000. You definitely want to stay tuned for that. So for a complete service, we're looking at the disassembly of the entire watch. All the movement parts are all going to be disassembled, laid out. They're going to be cleaned. They're going to be replaced in some cases, and they're going to run through a cleaning process. There's going to be exchange of standard movement parts, as I stated. They actually replaced every single all the hands. So the hour, minute, second hand, and they also replaced all 3 subdial chronograph hands, which absolutely needed. So that was great that they do that. Lubrication of the entire movement. Adjusting and setting of the movement function, so making sure it goes back to chronometer certification. So the watch is definitely going to be tested in all different positions, bottom, top, 3, 9, and 6 positions. And obviously we're going to need to average into +6 to -4 seconds daily. So the watch, when it comes back, should be functioning within COSC specs. They're also going to be changing out all of the seals. So the seals which are involved with waterproofing your watch. Because what happens is, after a couple years, the seals of your watches start to break down with dirt and also just age. And what happens is the gaskets start to become less and less effective. So even if you have a watch that's 3-4 years old, your watch is not going to be as water resistant as it was in year 1 through 2. So you always want to have your gaskets checked periodically, at least every 3 years. And that's why they recommend a service, by the way. It's not just for the movement, but you want to check the gasket. You want to make sure that your watch is going to go through the water resistance test. So they're going to actually, put it into a chamber, and they're going to test its water resistance as well. So that's actually part of this particular service. Now, whenever you get a battery change in your quartz watch, always replace the seals. So it's good to get those seals at least checked every few years for sure. So that's included. Polishing the case and the metal bracelet. So the entire case, the metal bracelet, okay, it comes back completely factory polished. Now, another question that pops up is, well, can I just get a polishing from Breitling? And the answer to that is no. They actually include that with a servicing. So you have to get a service in order to get the polish. If you want to get your watch polished, you're going to have to go somewhere else because it's only included with the service. So don't shoot the messenger. So essentially, you're going to be getting a brand new watch. For me, though, I was in a special situation. I bought this watch off of eBay. If you want to check out the whole story in regards to my dilemma buying this watch, definitely want to check the card right here. So, just to save time, check that video out if you want to find out exactly why I had to do all this replacement. But for this video, we're just going to get down to bare tax here, and that is I had to replace what they said was a damaged dial. Now, this falls under compulsory services, okay? So we talk about compulsory versus optional. Compulsory services are services that have to be done in order for them to service your watch. So I had to actually agree to that in order for me to get my watch serviced. So they say replacement of damaged dial, $499.28. Damaged dial meant in my case, it had scratches on the dial, and it also had spotting on the subdials. Now the question then leads, can you keep that dial? And the question is no. They will not. I actually asked them, I was like, well, can I keep the old dial for, basically a souvenir? And they're like, no, we are not allowed to do that as part of our policy. Oh, I have to assume that there's people out there that do nefarious things, but Breitling essentially utilizes the old dial kind of like an exchange program, but you're still paying $499 and change. So, but either way, no, you're not allowed to keep dials, hands, crystal, anything. Okay, so all those parts that I had replaced, it was basically an exchange, plus of course I was responsible for the fee. So what else was done? Damaged flange. Well, the flange was the top pusher. There's a flange that was damaged, so therefore when I would press it in, it would not bounce back. That was, believe it or not, $162.43. That was pretty painful. The replacement of the hands and the replacement of the crown was part of the servicing. Now, we get into optional stuff. And I actually did replace the crystal. There wasn't any scratches, but there were like these fine marks on it that it just wasn't crystal clear. And I figured if you're going to put a new dial on there, you might as well put a new crystal on there as well. And I opted for that. So that was $332.85. The other thing that they had on here for optional was a replacement of a marked pusher, which essentially means that the pusher had maybe a nick on it or a scratch, and they wanted to charge $153.11. I said absolutely not, buff it out, and I don't see any damage on it whatsoever. So I don't understand that one. The other one was the replacement of a marked buckle. So this buckle here, again, the polishing process took care of whatever it was that they were trying to charge before, and that was a whopping $790.53. So if I would have accepted all those services, that price would have been more like $3,000. And at that point, I'm already pricing myself out of this watch. So with all the services that I had to do, the compulsory services actually equaled out to $1,424.91. And the optional service was another $332.85. Plus the shipping back and forth, which was $31.80. Grand total of $1,757.76 on top of what I paid for this Breitling. Needless to say, this is going to be a watch that stays in my collection for life because, quite frankly, initially I'm underwater, and I'm going to be underwater for quite a few years, and I'm okay with that. I now have essentially a brand new Breitling for a little over $5,000. Now, when you look at a brand new Breitling today, you're looking at $10,000. So the way that I make myself feel better about this entire situation is that I got a brand new Breitling, because I do like this style better than the newer one, for half the price. So I know that's just what I tell myself to make myself feel better. Typical Breitling typically takes about 3 to 4 months. In my case, it took a little bit more time because of the services that were involved. So I actually requested the box on 4/14 of 23, so April 14th, 2023. You can actually service your watch one of many ways, by the way. You can call up on the phone and they'll send you a box from Breitling. You can actually go to an authorized dealer, or you can go on the website and have them send you a box as well. So there's a couple different ways. So essentially what happened was they sent me the box. I sent it over to them. They received it about 10 days later. Well, they received it and they looked at it and they went on a full diagnosis about 10 days later. And on the 28th, I accepted the estimate. And then on the 1st of May is when they started the repair process. So we go from May, all right, into September. September 11th is when I received the watch. So we're looking at June, July, August, September. So it was like 4 months. But the problem is there's a little bit of time that went by from April 14th to 5/1. Because you got to get the box, you got to send it out, they got to look at it, then they send you the estimate, and then you got to accept it, and then they take a couple days. So there's a couple weeks there that kind of were, I don't want to say wasted, but you can't count those. So 5/1 they started the process, so right around 4 months is how long it took. So there you go. If you have any other questions, definitely put them down below, and I'll do my best to answer them for you. Thank you very much for joining me. And I'll see you guys next time on Average Joe Watch Reviews. God bless, my friends.